Present day. Two men meet in a suspicious location in order to conduct a transaction.
Over here.
Jeez, Mikey, it's 3 a.m. We're in an alley in freaking Queens. You make me feel like we're a couple of gangsters from a movie.
We are a couple of gangsters, you bonehead.
Oh, Mikey, come on. We've known each other since we was kids.
Cut it out, all right? I've been dodging the feds all week on this caper, so let's do this thing fast.
All right.
You got the dough?
Of course, I never let you down, Mikey.
Okay, good. Here's the keys to the truck. It's just around the corner. Now don't screw it up this time.
We've done 100 jobs together. Why you disrespect me now, Mikey?
I'm not disrespecting you, my friend. It's just this time, it's serious.
More serious than our heroin, marijuana, or ecstasy jobs?
Yes! Much more serious than drugs. Dude, it's frickin' cookies!
Cookies?
Yeah, Girl Scout cookies! Now look, what do I always say on the smack and the doobie traffic?
Right. Never use the products that we sell.
Exactly! Never use the product. Now, I spoke to your wife recently.
You spoke to Sheila?
Relax, Goomba. It was a social call. She just mentioned you had an elevated cholesterol issue.
Oh, no, not you too now.
Yes, me too. Tony, look, you're like a brother to me, and I mean that. So stay away from those damn cookies.
Mikey, come on. They're cookies, not drugs.
Seriously, do you know what's in those things? Have you read the label?
Mikey, you know I flunked out of 5th grade. I can't read labels or even my driver's license.
True crime.
Sex.
Political conspiracy.
Celebrity gossip.
Murder.
UFOs.
Crooked officials.
The occult.
Assassination.
Courtroom drama. Rape.
Corporate scams.
Scandal Sheets. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Scandal Sheet. My name is Thad Housley, the original Podfather. And today, we risk our lives, our property, and our sacred honor by daring to tear open the airtight seal on one of America's most cherished institutions, the Girl Scouts of America Annual Cookie Drive. And, as usual, I am joined by my millennial co-host, Ellie, from the great state of Alaska, who, as it turns out, is one of the most successful Girl Scouts ever. Ellie, didn't you make it to the highest possible rank in the Girl Scouts?
I did. I was a Girl Scout with her Gold Award, which is like the equivalent of an Eagle Scout. And, you know, every time I say that and then I have to say it's the equivalent of an Eagle Scout, which means that obviously nobody really knows what it is. But yeah, you have like these 3 levels in Girl Scouts, you know, that's the Bronze Award and then the Silver Award and then the Gold Award. And so I did that in, you know, my final years of high school. I organized a 5K that raised food for the food pantry. So instead of paying like a $20 registration fee, you brought cans for the local food pantry.
So that's what got you the Gold Award.
That's what got me the Gold Award. So
okay,
yeah,
well, that's pretty cool. But I mean, you also sold Girl Scout cookies. I mean, did you get into this when I'm sorry to take you through this whole thing, and maybe we should wait a little while and start from the beginning.
I'll give you my whole history. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me first introduce that we are also joined by our artificial intelligence engine, Bernice.
Thank you. As I am digital code, I cannot be hurt by toxic food ingredients. That said, I do have a fondness for the peanut butter patty cookies.
So, Ellie, I mean, we definitely want to get into your history with the Scouts and everything else. But, you know, I just want to kind of alert you to the fact that even suggesting that anything done by the Girl Scouts is anything less than what would have been ordained by God himself is absolute heresy in this country. So I think after this episode is published, I at least need to run and not walk to the nearest witness protection program. But since you were a super duper Girl Scout, Are you inoculated from offering any criticism?
I don't know. I think maybe my inoculation wore off. It's been a little while. I haven't really.
It's like a COVID shot. You didn't get your
booster.
booster.
But yeah, I think I'm gonna have to run with you to the witness protection program. Also, because if you eat like a quarter of a Thin Mint, then you got to go run a 5K just to get rid of those calories anyway. So yeah, we'll run. We'll do our 5K run and then just keep running straight to the witness protection program.
Yeah, when I think of and my daughter was a brownie and a Girl Scout, but I wasn't. When I suggested that I could be, although I do see dads here and there, but when I suggested to this particular troop that I could be a helper, they were like, nope, no men allowed, man. This is like, the rascals, the little rascals, the girl haters club. Yeah. So this was the He-Man or the girl,
the she-girl man hater.
She-girl hater. Yeah.
Yeah, and look, I am a millennial. I was back in the original Girl Scouts where just everybody was a girl, born a girl. We were all just girls, she's and hers. And that's another reason I don't know much about the current state of the Girl Scouts. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know anymore if they allow boys in. I don't know if they allow troop dads. I don't know any of this. I'm not even sure if I think back, my dad was often tasked with running all of the kids to all their after school activities. And I'm sure at one point he was voluntold to do a few troop things or something, but I don't have any memory of him being super involved in the whole Girl Scout thing. So I'm pretty sure it was just a flat out like only girls, only women. And I'm sure it's changed. The Boy Scouts have changed, but yeah, it's different. I'm sure it is. But what hasn't changed is those Thin Mints. Yeah,
that's one of the few. I was looking at the cookies. They're the only one that is exactly like what I remember them to be. The other ones are kind of different, at least I can tell, or at least they have different names.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite Girl Scout cookie flavor?
It was definitely the Thin Mints. Close second would have been the peanut butter things.
Yeah, the peanut butter patties.
Yeah.
I know that they have another name, other baking company that we'll get into, but
yeah.
So the Girl Scouts have two commercial baking companies that they use. And one is called Little Brownie Bakers and one is called ABC Bakers. And so depending on which bakery your troop gets their cookies from, then they might have different names and like slightly different flavors. Even both of them have like a s'mores cookie, but they're totally different cookie wise. They're like, one of them's like a little sandwich and then one of them's like a covered shortbread thing. But really the Thin Mints between the two are mostly the same. There are people online who will do like a Thin Mint comparison with like Little Brownie Bakers and ABC Bakers. But for the most part, the Thin Mint is like the nice standard continuity between the two.
So when I think about the Girl Scouts, I think of it as since I wasn't directly involved, as something like a cross between the Masons and their shadowy, secret medieval rituals and the Hitler Youth of the 1930s and 40s. Because if only for the uniforms look exactly like the Hitler Youth.
Yeah, okay, but come on, we looked cuter in the uniforms
than the girls in the Hitler Youth?
Yeah, we looked much cuter.
Okay, they had pigtails. I had
pigtails too.
All right.
And I think it is really funny. When I was thinking back to this, there's like the Girl Scout promise and then the Girl Scout pledge. And I think we had it was like 3 fingers because the Boy Scouts are 2 fingers. So the Girl Scouts are 3 fingers. And it's like, on my honor, I will try to serve God and my country and to help people at all times and live by the Girl Scout law. And then.
Wow, you remember it.
That was not researched at all. That just came right back. It just came fluttering right back up. That was somewhere in the depths of my knowledge. And do I know what the Girl Scout law is? No, but I'm sure at one point I had it memorized.
Right. So, before we get really dive deep into the cookies, why don't you tell us a little bit about, since you were so experienced and spent so much time in the Scouts, what a Girl Scout is, what you guys did, what you gals did, and basically what your experience was like with the organization over those many years.
Yeah, so I started out in the daisies. So everybody knows that brownies are really cute, but actually there's like a kindergarten level for daisies. And so I started out in the daisies, and I went all
They
the way
come
through
before brownies is what you're saying.
They come before brownies.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
And so I don't think daisies do much besides just like run around and, look cute. And then the brownies, that's when you start doing things like arts and crafts. Obviously selling cookies because you're at your cutest age. And that's also when you can start doing things like going to Girl Scout camp in the summer. And then you also start working towards like your badges. So every Girl Scout would have like a vest or a sash. And then you would do these projects either together or individually that would be teaching you some sort of skill. So maybe it would be like some sort of like business, like you might have like a business entrepreneur person from your community come in and teach you a little bit about like owning a business, right? Or maybe you would shadow them at their business or something, and then that would get you a patch for like learning these things. And they have all these little outlines for badges and how to earn that, and then you kind of have to go through and check certain boxes within that lesson. And so it can be for a lot of different skills though, and of course they're always trying to enhance your skills of like leadership and communication and financial education. And there's then of course also selling cookies. So really the claim is that selling cookies is kind of like the pinnacle, like the all-inclusive activity to tie in all of these skills that you've been learning in Girl Scouts to really do everything except bake the cookie itself. It's teaching you how to sell things. It's teaching you how to communicate with people. It's teaching you how to kind of do a little bit of an elevator pitch to your neighbors when you're banging on their door at 3:00 on a Saturday afternoon. So yeah, there are just a lot of skills. I know I did a lot of different camps and sleepovers and events with the Girl Scouts.
But you went the entire distance with them, so you must have been fairly well indoctrinated, I would say, right? I mean, is that fair to say? I mean, it's one thing to go, like, I was a very reluctant Boy Scout. My parents thought it was a very kind of a Catholic thing. There was our parish church had a troop, so it was like, yeah, well, you got to go do that. I just wasn't really into it. Plus I was the youngest guy in the troop, and everybody was like a senior in high school, and I was in middle school, so I just got beat up all the time. So,
So there was definitely a point where I think it was about in like 8th grade or something, where all the other girls, like the troops start out really big. So it's like a bunch of girls, parents are like, hey kid, you want to join Girl Scouts? You want to play soccer? You want to, and they just say yes to everything. And so you're big. And then as people realize they're not good at selling cookies, they kind of fall off. So by about like the end of middle school, I remember there was like just a smaller core group of girls. And there were, I want to say there were about 8 or 9 of us. And one of the girls' moms was our troop leader. And she was kind of like, well, like the gold award and the silver award, like they'll look really good on your college application. And so if you're interested and just do the minimum of what needs to be done for you guys to have, or I'm sorry, you girls, we'll cross the finish line, but we're not going to do anything more than that. And so that's kind of what I remember throughout high school is all of us were like, okay, yeah, we're in it for the long haul. Let's do what we need to do. But we were not exactly like the most stellar of Girl Scouts by the end. It was kind of just checking the boxes required to like be the Girl Scout and cross the finish line. I don't know if I gave away too much.
No, not at all. So, but let's drill into the cookie thing a little bit more. So last year, according to actually the Girl Scouts themselves, they generated, COVID was still going on, generated over $800 million in cookie sales. Now,
that's not surprising because COVID was still going on, and so everybody was still eating like it was the end of the world.
Okay, maybe that's the case. Their website insists that most of the money goes to local troops. Now, when my daughter was selling cookies, and she's about your age now, the troop reward for selling hundreds or thousands of boxes of cookies was an all-expense paid day trip to the closest amusement park to us, which in our case was King's Dominion, which is sort of like a sea-level imitation of Disneyland or something.
No princesses?
No, I mean, it didn't have any kind of tie-ins. It was kind of a standalone thing, but all the rides were things that were sort of like just a really half-ass imposter or something at Disneyland or whatever. And apparently that cost the troop about $75 per girl for the day. It wasn't a sleepover. It was just like, let's all get into a short bus, go down there because it was only like 50 miles away, spend the day, come back, and you're done. And that's what you got for selling all those cookies. Now, maybe there was seemed like someone in the city got a scholarship or something if they sold like 10,000 boxes of cookies or something.
Nobody cares about scholarships at that age, though.
Well, yeah, you're right. They don't. It's the parents that do, right? It's the parents that do.
I think I remember something about a scholarship when I was a kid, but it was akin to on Christmas morning, I would my grandparents would sometimes give us savings bonds, and you'd like open up this envelope and it's a savings bond and you're just like, oh God, this is the worst Christmas gift ever.
Right.
You can't use it. As a kid, you just don't care. Yeah, scholarships are
and your mom is like, oh, grandma's so great. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was nice when I was like 22 and then just went to go cash them all out and then had a little bit of a few $100 extra of like cash that month. But at the same time, yeah, like as a kid, it's like, oh, worst Christmas present ever. So yeah, no 9-year-old is out there hustling away, selling all these cookies for a scholarship. They don't care. Plus, they think that college is going to be free by the time they get there anyway. So
that's right. Parents are going to pay for it. Right. Yeah.
They're definitely doing it for the King's Dominion trip. You know why they're really doing it though? Is the bragging rights.
Okay.
Yeah.
With all that money, and supposedly it's going to the local troops. Now, I sent you some links where they break it down, and it seems like there's an awful lot of people other than the baker itself that have their hand in the pie. It seems like a lot of that money goes to Girl Scouts of America headquarters. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Because, did you see, what are the out-of-pocket expenses to your troop? The parents pay for the uniforms. The meetings take place either at a church or in somebody's house. What are the out-of-pocket expenses that you guys need to support?
Yeah. So I agree. So thinking back to some of these examples. So actually in my town growing up, we had a Girl Scout hut. It was like it was a building. I think that had probably been paid for by the Girl Scouts of America.
Okay.
And so we had our own building that was like next to a park. But I think beyond that, yeah, it's like they also kind of had some troop grants for like bigger projects that we might have done or like community service projects. I remember like we painted these paintings for like the local hospital. And so I'm thinking like, where did the materials from that come from? It may have come from some sort of grant from like the Girl Scouts of America. It just came from the troop budget, realistically. Less than a quarter of the cost of the box goes to the individual troop that's selling it. I just looked up, it's $5 a box this year. Some of them are $6 and less than $1.25 to be going to the individual troop. Even if your troop sells 1,000 boxes of cookies, then that's still only $1,000 going to your troop, which is nothing to sneeze at. But at the same time, like that's a lot of work to sell 1,000 boxes. And then $1,000 isn't going to go very far for things that you want to do. And then we also, in my town, we had a Girl Scout camp where Girl Scouts would come. And I know that was funded from the Girl Scouts of America, but they would have summer programs and it wasn't specific to your troop. But I know that parents also had to pay a few $100s for their kid to go to camp for that week.
Yeah. Boy Scouts had a camp too, like a day camp, to get rid of your kid for a certain amount of time in the summer. But they had to pay for that. But we weren't selling Girl Scout cookies. We sold candy, I think. It never caught on the way, it wasn't as big an event as Girl Scout.
I think the Boy Scouts sell popcorn now. I think that's the big thing is the Boy Scouts sell popcorn. But like with Girl Scouts, obviously it's like a nonprofit 501c3. So I'm sure if you wanted to be hypercritical, you could definitely go in and audit all the things that they spend money on. And just like any big organization, there is a lot of money that's going to the top, right? And then it trickles down less and less and less to the actual groups of brownies running around the playground and stubbing their toe and skinning their knee, and then they can't afford Band-Aids. But I think in general, the overall benefit of Girl Scouts is still there, you know? Like, I am hesitant to be hypercritical of how much money is going where, because I just don't really care. But it is ironic it is ironic that like such a small percentage goes to the individual troops.
Well, okay, and even if you do set the money aside, just let's talk a little bit about whether there's a little exploitation going on here, because you've got these two, like you were saying, these two baker companies. One is a division of Keebler, which is a gigantic baker of products in grocery stores. And, you know, the Nabiscos and the Keeblers of the world, I mean, they have to pay for their shelf space in a grocery store. I mean, they're fighting over every, you know, fraction of an inch. So, I mean, that's big bucks. But I do have to admire them, because it's like, okay, because I've never seen a Girl Scout cookie sold at a grocery store or any kind of an actual retail chain. Maybe they are. I mean, there's girls obviously, you know, with a folding table in front of the grocery store selling them, but not actually marketed in a conventional way. And in fact, I understand that during the cookie season, the main cookie companies lay off on it. They don't even bother to try to compete. They're just like, okay, let's just lay down and forget about it. Let's all take a long.
Yeah, they just know that it's
they know.
season.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing going against regular cookie companies at the beginning of the year is everybody is still in theory sticking to their New Year's resolutions, working on their bikini bodies, right? And like trying to cut back on the calories and the sugar. So
I know
nobody's
I am.
buying Oreos. Yeah.
But here's the thing. Yeah. You get, so you say, oh, you know, it's just such a great idea to say, you know what? Let's get 1.7 million free workers, little girls, to go out and be our sales force. We'll give them a small percentage of the back end sales, 0 upfront, 0 out of pocket. And I mean, what other commercial company on planet Earth can boast that they have a completely free sales force?
And not just a sales force.
I mean, isn't that kind of like child labor somehow?
I know.
I mean, what if you showed up, you were talking about knocking on the door at 3 o'clock. What if you showed up and said, hey, Mr. Simpson, what about this 42-inch Samsung TV?
I know.
What about that Tesla I've got back there? Come on, write a check for $75K right now. Come on.
And it's not just the free labor, it's also the free storage. I remember when I was a Girl Scout, like the troop leader, her house, like in their garage,
right,
that was all the boxes of cookies, right? And so they don't have to pay for warehouse space or anything. In fact, the ironic thing is you're paying to be there. The parents are paying dues for their kids, right? And then, the kids are working. And here's where it's all about optics and marketing, though, is because how ironic would it be to say, like, you know what, those sweatshops in Taiwan that make our coats, that's not child labor. That's just teaching them valuable skills for later in life. Like, it's all about the spin that you put on it, right? Because here we are using like child labor to sell cookies,
right?
And we're applauding every step of it, right? The communication, the leadership, the financial organization, and public speaking. And yet, like other places in the world, we're like condemning child labor because it's like so bad, and you know, we definitely shouldn't make kids work, and they should be in school. Well, you know what? The next kid who comes to my door and tries to sell cookies, I'm going to tell him to go back to school. That's not. That is another thing where it's like kind of ironic how, you know, parents are desperate for their kids to have like these community service and leadership opportunities with Girl Scouts. And so then they enroll their kids in Scouts, and then they're paying for all these dues and camps, and then they're also selling the cookies just to go on like their kid's resume, so that then their kid can put it on their college application, and then getting to a college where then the parent is like most likely stuck with like a $40,000 a year tuition bill from like whatever college that their kid got into.
Tell me about it.
Or, telling their kids to take out student loans. So it is an interesting scheme here. It seems like it's not the fault of the cute little girls. It is absolutely the fault of the parents.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the nutritional value of the product. Is it good for you? Now, everybody's going to say, look, the doctors are and the federal government and, health class and everything. They're always telling us, you know what, it's okay to have a cookie or ice cream or other sugary treats once in a great while. While at the same time, we've got all these holidays that seem to be built around candy and other.
Well, doctors are telling you that it's okay to have a Girl Scout cookie every once in a while because their kids are Girl Scouts.
Right. But I guess, it just seems like, because at one point, first, we got Girl Scouts, we got Valentine's Day, we got Easter. I mean, how many holidays do we have that are built around eating junk? And of course, you walk into a grocery store and you see entire aisles just filled with this stuff. You're like, okay, there's this tiny section of an aisle that's devoted to toothpaste and dental floss. And then you've got this mile-long thing that's all about cookies. What are they, what are they trying to tell us here? And let's be honest, if you look at the label, I mean, this stuff is not good for you. I mean, there is stuff in there that is, it's corn syrup and there's like other kinds of chemicals. I mean, it's not even food by any objective.
Yeah, that is true. Like, I think they're some of the least healthy snacks that you can be buying. And I think the justification for it, though, is they're not sold year round. And then you can feel good about eating them because you're helping girls and like their professional development. It's not.
Well, that's it. That goes back to it's the greatest marketing scam in the world. But I mean, just from any kind of a moral, it's sort of like, okay, what if we asked our little girls to go work at the tobacco company?
Right. Yeah, to just walk around and start selling cigarettes to everybody.
Why don't you sell some cigarettes? Yeah. I'm going to give you a carton of Cools.
Well, have you seen those like pictures of the Girl Scouts who set up tables outside like the dispensaries, states where like marijuana is legal?
Oh,
and
right.
It's like genius, Nobody's.
No, that is a good idea. Right? You should be near the exit, right? So you're just like, oh man, I could really use a box of cookies right now. Yeah.
Nobody's questioning like, oh, these chemicals in my body, those chemicals in my body. All the troop moms are unwinding from a day of babysitting their kids outside the Target, with a glass of wine. Like, it's just, I think, the health argument is, there is one there. It's just kind of hard to make because in some ways it also seems a little hypocritical that like we put so much other crap in our bodies. We were talking about the Impossible Burgers a few episodes ago, and it's like interesting to eat something that is so terrible for you but still makes you feel good about yourself because like you're helping save the planet. And now it's like March, it's Women's History Month, and we're all gung-ho about helping women succeed and little girls succeed, and we're like, hey, by eating these cookies, I am making a difference in the world. I mean, what better way to make a difference in the world than by eating terrible cookies? So, they're great cookies. They taste fantastic, but they're terrible for you,
okay, let me pitch this idea to you in case you end up being in the actual corporate staff of the Girl Scouts of America, which I imagine is, just like any other giant corporation. But what if instead of selling cookies, these exact same girls, they're still selling, but let's say they sell fresh broccoli and cauliflower, green beans, other fresh produce from local farms. So not only you're not helping some giant company in London or New York or Tokyo or wherever these guys are based, you're actually helping your local farms and you're making money for your troop and you're selling something good. I mean, would I not? But I mean, wouldn't I just be just as intimidated? Have a bunch of little girls run up to me at the Safeway if they had a thing of green beans versus cookies. I'd still hand over my money mindlessly, wouldn't I?
A few flaws with the theory, though. One, that could not happen. That would not be a coordinated nationwide effort, because cookies, the airtight shelf stable cookies.
Right. No, this would have to. It wouldn't be able to happen in February. It would have to happen during the growing season, which might vary in different locations, right? Yeah.
Correct. And then even beyond that, like the local products that you're going to find at local farms in Florida, Idaho, are going to be completely different, right? Like the Girl Scouts in Idaho are going to be selling potatoes, and then the Girl Scouts in Florida are going to be selling strawberries.
Or oranges, yeah.
So they're probably going to have like fairly different profit margins. Yeah. So there would definitely be like a much more disconnected effort, I think, between the Girl Scouts of America. Like it wouldn't be as unified of an effort. And when you have stuff like that, then you can't efficiently funnel money up to the top. So I think there'd be a lot of pushback from all sides there. Also, you would have to have a much shorter selling season, right? Because, when things come into harvest, they're not good. They're produce, right? So girls, have to plan their selling schedules around all their other events that their parents have signed them up for. And so, like, they can't just all day on Tuesday and go sell all the spinach before it goes bad, because like maybe they have school or soccer or something like that. They're on a schedule. So I don't think that would work. And here's the thing. I also don't think it would be as successful, because the American consumer loves the the irony of the unhealthiness of the cookie, right? Like they love the indulgence. They love indulging for good. That, this concept of indulging for a good cause is something that's like selling plenty of products, not just for Girl Scouts, but like plenty of other alcohol products and junk food products, and just do it for good, do it for other people, do it for charity. Buy this overpriced thing and eat it, and then you're going to feel good about your muffin top after eating all those muffins that are going to help kids. That's kind of my take on it. Yeah, it's like a great way to take a break from your New Year's resolutions and just indulge for like a second, but also pretend to be doing good in the world. It's good. And I also have to throw a disclaimer in here, because I know that my parents are listening and they're probably thinking like, oh my God, this ungrateful child. We drove her to all of those scout meetings and we took all those cookie order forms to work. No, I'm very thankful to my parents for all the work that they put into scouts, because I feel like the older I get, the more I realize that they put way more effort into my hobbies than I put into my hobbies, that ultimately, got me to where I am today. So it's just ironic though.
Do you think Girl Scouts made you a pilot? A professional pilot?
No. No. But the other thing is with, like the older I get too, I feel conflicted, because just the last thing I want is a Girl Scout knocking on my door selling me cookies. I just don't want that. But so much of my early Girl Scout success came from knocking on everybody else's doors. And so, yeah, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for it, except I'll just feel conflicted about it, I guess, the rest of my life.
Well, here's the key question. I mean, you're still pretty young. I don't think you've been married all that long. You don't have any children, I don't believe. When that day occurs, if it does occur, will you be entering your daughter in the Girl Scouts?
Well, I don't really plan on having kids, so.
Oh, okay. So you don't have to face that question. You're able to dodge it.
Yeah, just like, wow. But I'm just looking back. I'm like, could have saved so much money. My parents could have saved so much money by just not enrolling us in any hobbies, or any activities. And then we wouldn't have had these great college applications. And then they wouldn't have had to pay for the expensive schools.
Well, plus you come from a big family. Your family is larger than the American average. So they they just threw caution to the wind.
Yeah, yeah. No, it is. Yeah, and especially, my dad was the one who was always driving us around, and so we are very like I am very grateful for that. And it was definitely a thankless job that he did for a quarter of a century to drive all the kids around to all their practices.
Oh my God,
and
a
stuff.
quarter of a
But
century. Yeah.
the older I get, I'm like, geez, I have these hobbies that only I do, and like I barely even want to drive myself to them, let alone like take some other kid and hold their hand while they pretend to sell Girl Scout cookies or whatever. Like I am the person at the store right now this season where I just like, first of all, I don't go on the weekends. Big mistake if you're trying to avoid the Girl Scout cookies. And then
you don't go to the grocery store on the weekends? Is that what you said?
No, okay. No, I don't, because the Girl Scouts are outside. And then I like go in the opposite door. Like, oh, there they are, and so
well, I always say I don't carry cash. I haven't used cash for years, which is true. But then you feel
that's a problem though, because now they all take
oh well, maybe the troops around here aren't quite into Foursquare yet or whatever. But
no, I'm pretty sure they all take card now. Yeah. So sorry,
that excuse.
You're gonna have to.
It works with homeless people.
It does.
See how brutal I am.
Homeless people don't have a square.
No.
Reader
well, even
yet,
if they did, I'd be very reluctant to hand them my credit card and watch them run away. So.
Yeah, right. If they take it and they're pretending to swipe it on the reader and then they just like run and then you never see your credit card again. Hey, but luckily though, as long as they don't have your phone, you can just cancel your card really quick your app.
That's true.
So, and the other scandal, I don't know if we want to get into it, but a lot of people are trying to create this scandal of the palm oil in cookies, or not create the scandal, but address the scandal of palm oil.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because that's it. It's an ingredient in the cookies, and it is commonly done with child labor, right? Sort of quasi-slave labor in other countries.
Well, but so is the sale of Girl Scouts. I don't really see the problem here.
Right. But there probably is a qualitative difference in terms of standing outside of a Safeway with your mom, and you can go inside anytime and warm up and what have you, and actually working in like a jungle harvesting whatever it is that they harvest to make palm oil.
I know.
So at all hours of the day and night.
It's just an interesting dichotomy there.
Well, and that was another road to go down. And I was reading some articles, where the Girl Scouts like issued an official statement. We don't support, the slave labor of any people in any country, blah, blah, blah. And if we discover anybody who uses that, now how do they know what these companies are buying? That's what makes it so hard with like a global supply chain. How could you actually know? I mean, people might tell you, hey, don't worry about it. Just because it comes from Botswana doesn't mean that we're like exploiting anybody. Well, I don't know. I was in Botswana the other week. It looked pretty bad to me.
Well, here's the thing. I think if you're going to open up this can of worms on palm oil, then you have to really sit back and look at your life and look at all the other things that have palm oil in it. Because it's not just the Girl Scout cookies. So if you're not going to buy Girl Scout cookies because of the child labor involved in like palm oil, then there's like a lot of other products that you really need to start cutting out of your life. I think it's like shampoos.
Oh, really? Okay.
Soaps and like countless other foods. Yeah, it's everywhere. So the argument of boycotting Girl Scout cookies for the palm oil itself, fine. Whatever makes you feel good. This is all about feeling good. Whether you eat the Girl Scout cookies or don't eat the Girl Scout cookies, it's all about feeling good, right? That's what it comes down to. If you're going to make the palm oil argument, I think you have to like just look at your broader life and really figure out you have to cut out a lot more than just the Girl Scout cookies.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else we've missed?
Well, turns out I think I missed all of Girl Scout cookie season. Like, I don't think I can buy them anymore. Well, luckily. I think I made it through the whole season without having to purchase.
Well, it goes from February through April, technically. That's what it says on the website. I mean, they're here. They're
Don't tell me
everywhere
that.
here. They have not, just because it's March 1, I don't think. I expect that this Saturday there'll be just as many kids outside the doors as there were last Saturday. So.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, okay.
I don't know. Maybe Anchorage has a law against. They put some kind of a limit on it, right?
I don't know. Well, speaking of places that have laws, though, it is illegal for the Girl Scouts to sell. For a little while, it was illegal for Girl Scouts to sell Girl Scouts in front of like the Girl Scout founder's home. Juliette Gordon Lowe, she was the founder of the Girl Scouts, and her house is like a landmark.
I saw that,
Savannah,
yeah.
Georgia. And so many girls were going to, sell Girl Scout cookies outside of her home that the city abandoned, which is ironic.
Okay.
But
okay.
Yeah. I think now they have to just like stay off the sidewalk or something.
So the other thing we might as well ask you, since we've got you here, I don't know when this episode will get finally edited, hopefully in only a few days, but coming up in the weekend ahead of us is the beginning of one of the most famous races in the world. You want to tell us about that? Because it originates in your city.
Yeah, the Iditarod. Well, technically the start of the Iditarod is up in
okay.
Amarillo.
I thought it was Anchorage. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, the big festivals, like kind of like the ceremonial start is here in Anchorage, but the start of the actual race itself is about an hour and a half north of here. Yeah, northeast of here. So yeah, but no, it's a really exciting time. All of a sudden, like all the bars and restaurants downtown are full, and so if you don't want to go to the festivities, then it's a good time to avoid downtown. But no, it's kind of, it puts Alaska back on the map, and like dog sled racing and is just a pretty...
Yeah, tell us about what it is for those who are uninformed, those Easterners like me. It's a dog sled race, right? It's X number. Okay.
Yeah, so the dogs will pull the musher on a sled through...
And the musher is a single individual, right?
Yeah, through just under 1,000 miles of frozen tundra, all the way up to Nome.
Wow.
And Nome is the city that's not farthest west, but it's like where the Bering Strait, like where the Bering Land Bridge came across, like from Siberia. And so there's like the Bering Strait Land Bridge Museum and stuff over there. So Nome is a city out in Western Alaska. And so sport itself is really cool. And then there are also just like a lot of recreational dog sled racers and mushers, around the state of Alaska, people who just have like smaller teams of 4 or 6 dogs and, go to the park and run around with their dogs. General dogs and then people on skis or sleds is kind of just a part of life up here. And the Iditarod is obviously like...
When you say a sled, so, I mean, we're really talking about, something that looks, an apparatus that looks very much like, the original North Pole explorers or South Pole or Eskimos, where it's like a completely horizontal thing with all of the packing and the luggage in front of it. And the guy stands in back. He doesn't sit on a chair, right? He stands, right?
Yeah. Like it's very physically.
Yeah. It seems like it would be.
Rider. Yeah. It's not. Yeah. He's not just like sitting there like in a horse-drawn carriage or something. It's not like I love that scene in The Grinch of like his dog Max, and they've got like that massive oversized sled of all the stolen presents and they're like going up Mount Crumpet. Yeah, it's nothing like that. I mean, it's like very lightweight, as aerodynamic as possible or whatever, and they're making it as easy as possible on the dogs, to go over the snow. And it's I think it'll take them like 10 days to 2 weeks ish. I could be very wrong on that, but that sounds about right. I need to go back and probably look that up. I've been a little out of the loop. Yeah. So it'll be fun. I'll definitely keep my ears open for any scandals that happen that we might want to cover on the podcast.
We hope you'll follow or subscribe to Scandal Sheet on your favorite pod platform. And share it with all your friends. We'd also love it if you'd leave us a shameless, over-the-top rave review on Apple Podcasts especially. That helps us build audience. Also, we want to hear from you! You can reach us online at scandalsheetpod.com, Facebook, or Twitter, or just send us an email to contact@scandalsheetpod.com. See you next time on Scandal Sheet!
Copyright 2023, Thad Helsley Media LLC. All rights reserved.